You want to escape from the US? Maybe you're disabled, trans, femme, and the constant escalation of existential threats against you is giving you thoughts about leaving the country. If you want to know what it takes, stick around. I escaped the US to Ireland, and I'm here to share my experience. Who am I? I'm Argentarius, a trans, non-binary person. My pronouns are they, them. I'm autistic, ADHD, I have chronic pain, and I'm deaf. I am a half Chinese American born in the United States. I am a US citizen, and I'm working on my Irish citizenship. My experience applies mostly to moving to the European Union, or EU for short, but some of this will apply to any country. How can you immigrate? By far the easiest route is to claim citizenship through family ties. Maybe you have family, parents, grandparents who are citizens of another country. The requirements can vary from country to country, but most countries in the EU allow you to claim citizenship via ancestry. If you have the privilege of having this option, even if this involves uncomfortable conversations with family, usually this is by far the fastest and easiest option. If you can claim citizenship in any country in the EU, know that you do not have to stay in that country. You can actually live and work in any other EU country. The country that you have citizenship of in the EU doesn't have to be the place that you stay in. All the other options require that you get permission to stay in the country after a set amount of time, usually 5 years or so. It can be more. You can apply for citizenship, which can take a couple more years after you apply to complete. If you're looking to immigrate, that's roughly 6 or 7 years to become a citizen or so. Before you are a citizen, you have to continue to meet requirements to stay, and you cannot live outside of the country or work outside of the country, or you have to restart your immigration process with that new country. Even though you may be immigrating to an EU country, you don't get the benefits of working or living in any other EU country until you become a citizen. Two main ways that I know of to get permission to stay within an EU country. One is work for a company that will sponsor you, and two is go to a university, but you also need a company to sponsor you after you graduate. But you are given a time window to find a sponsoring company. So there is a third way that I know of, but it's out of reach for me, and it's probably going to be out of reach for you, and that is to be very, very wealthy. I went the route of finding a company to sponsor me. My career as a software engineer qualified me as what they call critical skills in Ireland, which allowed my spouse to immigrate at the same time. Each country is going to have different specific requirements, so you're going to have to do your own research for each country. But the nice thing is they generally make this information available to you online. For Ireland, citizensinformation.ie is my go-to resource for that. Also, you'll want to look ahead at requirements for citizenship in the country that you're looking to immigrate to. Each country has their own specific tests for applying for citizenship. For example, some will require you to take a test. Some, as I mentioned before, requires more than 5 years. Others may even require you to have a name pronounceable in their native language. Each country varies, but it's always good to check ahead of time and do your research. As a last resort, there is one other method, but this is the method that I know the least about, and that is to claim refugee status. I don't know much about this, but it's difficult from what I know. Make sure to do research on this route if you ever try to attempt it. What were my major hurdles? It's easy to find all the positives, but it's a lot harder to find the hidden barriers that you might face if you try to do this, even with 5-6 years of research. In order to prepare you, I have some very brief highlights of some of the major ones that we faced. The first major barrier was finding permission to work, that initial step. It's difficult to apply for jobs abroad, and even if you get a company to agree, you may have to push them a little bit to finalize things. At least that's what I found. The second major hurdle is learning that what is written is different from what is practiced. For example, no pets. In Irish apartment listings, we found from people that lived here that what that means is you can either negotiate it with your landlord, or this means no dogs. But we have a cat, and we had to move her with us because she's very attached to us. And this made it very difficult to find a place. This applies to the government as well. For example, my spouse needed to have private insurance to get specific immigration status, but this was not written anywhere. So third, you need a permanent address when you don't have one yet. This is a chicken and the egg problem. You maybe arrive at a hotel and you're staying there as you're trying to set things up and look for an apartment because you can't find one ahead of time, and you run into where you need to get your immigration card finalized and they won't accept a hotel address, or you need a bank account in order to apply for an apartment, and the bank account won't let you unless you have a non-hotel address. So you'll find that there's quite a few of these chicken and egg problems being an immigrant, which is unfortunate. So hurdle number 4 is transportation. Figuring out how to get around in a new country is not easy. Ireland does not allow you to transfer driver's license from the US to their driver's license, so I had to redo the driver's test for that. You can, however, get an international driver's permit, which lasts a year, but you do also run into problems with that too. When you get your learner's permit, you can't drive like you can with your international driver's permit. The other thing too is that public transportation may look better on paper than it actually is in practice. Buses can be late, routes can be not posted clearly, and at least in Ireland, there's a lot of different buses and transit systems, and a few of them are privatized, some of them are public. It's a little bit tricky, and even people who live their whole lives have issues with the transit system. So at least you're not alone. Hurdle number 5 is finding community. You need community to survive out here. And, well, you need a community to survive anywhere. If a fellow immigrant did not let me borrow his address for like paperwork, I would not have been able to have found a place to stay. This is one instance where it's just really beneficial to if you can find a community ahead of time. But it's also really difficult to do that. If we did not find friends here, we would not be able to navigate certain situations. So finding community and friends may be difficult, but is very crucial. 6 is language and culture barriers. Even in a country that speaks English natively, you'll run into some language barriers. For example, the word call for me is a phone call. But here in Ireland, it means to visit you physically. You'll run into things that kind of trip you up. It may not affect you as a tourist, but when you live here, it's a little bit different. 7 is healthcare. Accessing most healthcare here requires a general practitioner, or GP for short. This is similar to a primary care physician. However, a lot of times you'll find that they're not taking new patients, and it took us a couple of years to find one. I could probably fill a whole video on each of these hurdles, but I hope the highlights will help you, give you an idea of some of the hurdles you can run into. I just want to say everyone's journey is going to be unique. These hurdles, may not affect you. You may run into entirely different hurdles. But these are barriers that can be overcome. I highly recommend doing your research. We did not get everything right the first try. We had to try and keep at it. Immigration is a lot of work, but it can be worth it. Before I go, if you found this video helpful, please help me get the word out by liking it and sharing it. And also feel free to ask me any questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer what I can. This video is supported by viewers like you. Thank you very much to my patrons on Patreon. Patreon supporters get a number of benefits like early access and Discord. You can find me at patreon.com/Argentarius. I put a link in the description. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I hope to see you in the next video.